and I'm going to give the woman a seed. And when she produces that seed, it's going to crush the head of the serpent. So never sleep on a woman who has a casket and a curse, because she also has a seed attached to her name.
If I see one more black female, I'm not going to do shit at my expense.
We're black women.
No, folks are going to do everything they can to distort her truth. Hard-working, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black.
The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. To respect our women and to protect our women.
Like black women, we so tough all the time. God is real and God lives.
It's out of all of us.
I think it's very important that I specifically talk about this Rodney Henson case, because I had an entire video kind of breaking down the facts of the, story and what took place and everything. And that was important to do. But I think I should also just really talk about the entire situation and how I feel about it, because I think that people need to really get my perspective on it, because there's been a lot of mixed information on social media. I now know the entire facts of the story. This video is not to address the facts. I have an entire video just breaking down what is being said, the truth of the matter, the video footage that was caught on the officer's camera. I just speak about all of it, detail. Check that video out, watch that video, get familiarized with that, and I even go into a little bit of my opinion in it, but not too deeply. This video is just to give you all my opinion on it, right? While I understand that we do not want to promote that it should be killing season, that civilians should take the law into their own hands and, take certain steps to cause harm, especially with the case of the police officer not having anything to do with it. But I think that what has been common now, it seems as though that once an officer, even if it's an officer of color, because we've seen this in the Tyree Nichols case, if it's an officer of color, they tend to have to choose, are you black or blue? Because the thing is, it's very rare for a police officer to see wrong being done, especially to someone of color, and them to stand up for that person and say, hey, this is not right. It happens, but it's very rare, That person is just taking major steps. That person is an anomaly. Hey, we're going to step up and stand up and say when things are wrong. But most of the time, when you choose blue, it's like you're abandoning black in order to choose blue. It's giving house N-word energy. I don't use the N-word, I just think it's very disrespectful. But I'm saying that it gives that, back in the day where the slaves, they had that one slave that, loved the master and was happy to serve him. They have those type of people. And when police officers of color, they're supposed to be in that position to, hey, I'm going to fight. I'm going to, protect all people, not even just people of color, but a lot of the cases they're being made to choose, are you black or blue? And a lot of them are choosing blue. And I think that when it comes down to this Rodney Henson case, I feel as though, although he was not justified and right in the manner in which he just go and take an innocent life, but when we see cases like the Tyree Nichols situation, and you're a father and you go to sleep and you see that, hey, my child has been taken out of this world and I have to live the rest of my life without my child and without my child being present, then you think like, I wish I would have done something. And in extreme cases, this father took it upon himself in a moment of insanity, I would say, and did something and said, hey, this isn't right, And the thing is, this is not what the police officers would have liked to happen. Hey, this is not what the system would have liked to happen. The law would not have liked for this to happen. This is not right. This should not have happened. But the argument to that is, then you guys do your job and convict these people when they kill someone, when they harm someone. They should not be able to go scot-free. They should not be able to just be freed without any verdicts. It happens like this. And it's crazy because the police protects their own. They decide who's to decide what's right and what's wrong. We've seen now with the entire situation is going on with Trump, that it can be decided. You can go against what the laws are put in place, what laws are put in place to say that you can't do this and you can't do that and you have to abide, because the laws are made to govern and set, the tone for how things are supposed to be. You can go in there and say F the law. And if you are at a certain place, if you are respected, if you have policy, if you have, it is forgiven. People forgive you and they say, okay. And I just don't think that's right. While I don't think that the Rodney Henson case was accurate and he should not have done it that way, and he should have, had his day in court, I believe that I understand how he felt, and I understand how someone can feel this way, especially when people of color have been feeling as though that they have been abandoned and that they have been harmed, and they have not been supported or protected at all by the media. They don't feel safe. They don't feel protected. They don't feel that, the media has their back. And they have been feeling like that for a very long time. And I think, in cases like this, you can sympathize with someone and say, I understand. I understand how you would feel this way. Tyree Nichols, was just harmed by three police officers. They happened to be a police officer of color, but they were doing, the blue job, by making these type of decisions. And I would say that they got scot-free because the police blue, they protect their own, And I think that in this case with Rodney Henson, it teaches people or police officers, if this is going to be the case, to shake things up and make police officers think twice. Hey, what will these parents do? What will happen behind these actions? It makes them second guess and think, hey, let me think about this deeply. Let me think about if this is the right decision to make. If they happen to really sit back and process this and think for themselves before making such crazy decisions and making such rash choices to take away a life, if this is going to make them think about it, then I understand, then I understand why this, needed to happen, or I understand why this gets looked at as, hey, some things happen to my child or something happened to one of my own, then, that's the case. I feel horrible that this police officer did not have anything to do with it and this happened to him. If this was my husband, this was my father, this was my brother, I definitely would feel, that something needs to be done. And I definitely would feel like, extremely heartbroken, and I definitely would understand. But in the large view of it all, I understand why this happened, and I understand what this looks like, and I understand what this meant for the Black community and, people of color altogether. And I understand why this step happened, because people are simply afraid and people are fed up with, blue, getting rid of Black and brown people and getting to go home and sleep with their families and live to, do it again, I just don't think that cases and scenarios and situations like this need to happen without any simple, I would say, outcome to protect people who are going through this. I feel like something needs to be done to protect Black and brown people. If these people are doing these different actions and these people are having or just all together doing all of this, something needs to take place where people's lives are protected and people feel protected. That's how I feel. That's how I see it. However, I do get people saying that, hey, this was an innocent life. This was a police officer who's not going to be with their family. And, he had nothing to do with this case. He was, directing traffic. He deserves to be protected. And I sympathize with you as well. I understand where you're coming from. I just feel as though that too many people of color lives have been taken, too many senselessly for no reason, and they, the entire police department got to go home and sleep and be fine while that parent is grieving for the rest of their life for their child. That's just how I see it. But I just wanted to give you guys this quick little breakdown of as far as my views and how I can understand both sides of the situation. And I sympathize with all people, especially the ones that have lost lives, and I understand. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
And represent him. So with that said, please, everybody, just try to forgive everybody who done anything to anybody. Acting under the court of law. Acting under the court of law.
deputy. Find a Hamilton County courtroom today in support of the deputy who was killed while the man accused of killing him faced a judge.
I understand that there is a lot of sadness and a lot of anger in this room right now, but in the community at large.
38-year-old Rodney Henson Jr. is accused of aggravated murder after police say he intentionally hit and killed the deputy on Friday around 1 o'clock at Martin Luther King Drive and Burnett Woods Drive. CPD says the deputy was working in detail right outside of UC's campus when Hinton hit him with his car. The crash happened one day after Rodney's 18-year-old son, Ryan Hinton, was killed in a shooting involving Cincinnati police.
I understand that this is an emotionally charged situation.
Prosecutors argue no bond should be set. They say the crash appears to be intentional. Court documents say Rodney drove eastbound across oncoming traffic lanes through the intersection and directly at the deputy, who was wearing a uniform and a bright fluorescent vest.